Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to yet another edition of the Pure Digital Passion Podcast with me, Moses Kemibaro. Today, we're discussing a very important topic, which is the KRA eTIMS tax invoicing system, which has recently been launched in Kenya, but more importantly, at the end of this month, March, will be mandatory for all businesses and individuals, whether they're registered for VAT or not, to have in place. And we have a very interesting panel with us today to discuss various facets and aspects of this new development and what it takes for you as an individual or as a business to ensure that you are compliant and, more importantly, able to take a full advantage of eTIMS. And I'll start off to my left with Caroline. Caroline, maybe you can introduce yourself and tell us what you do at KRA.
Thank you, Moses. Good afternoon. My name is Caine Wacuka from KRA. I work in the eTIMS operations office, handling the rollout of eTIMS. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Caine, could you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Moses, and thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, so Caine Wanjau is my name. We have a company called Namiri Technology Limited, and we've developed Digitx, which is an eTIMS compliance solution. So we're one of the companies offering eTIMS integration services.
Thank you so much, Caine. And maybe Limo, you can also introduce yourself.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Limo Taboi. I am a financial writer, a friend of Moses. I'm also a financial coach for some entrepreneurship ventures and just an observer of business trends.
Great stuff. So as you can see, we have a fantastic panel and we'll just go into some of the key details regarding eTIMS. I think we'll start with you, Caroline. Maybe tell us what motivated eTIMS as a new initiative for KRA. What are the underlying reasons why this was done?
Okay, thank you, Moses. That's a good place to start. So eTIMS is the electronic tax invoice management system. And it's an improvement of a system we rolled out about 2 years back in 2021 when we rolled out the tax invoice management system for the VAT traders.
Okay.
So what we did back then was upgrade the ETR devices that they were using to be able now to have them record their transactions, generate an electronic invoice, and transmit to KRA. So over the course of that implementation, as we were supporting the VAT traders to be able to, onboard, we would get a lot of feedback from them. And what we picked up that kept coming up was that KRA needed to avail additional channels through which businesses could be able to comply. So with Teams, it served its purpose. It still does. We have the VAT traders still using the ATRs, transmitting their data to KRA. But there's also a category of these taxpayers who were not able to comply within the timelines because that process we concluded in November of 2022. So for these VAT traders who were not able to onboard, mainly because of issues of cost, because the upgrading required one to purchase an ATR. And also for those who did get the ATR, some of them faced challenges integrating the ATR with their business systems.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the ATRs were not really serving the traders who dealt with bulk invoicing. So with all that feedback, we quickly went back to the drawing board and came up with eTIMS, the electronic tax invoice management system, as an improvement of that implementation. And it's now the software solution that allows people in business to be able to issue their invoices and have them transmitted to KRA.
So what I'm hearing you say is that eTIMS was actually a response to what the market was telling you, what business was telling you. And giving them something that would be appropriate and more user-friendly and so forth, correct?
Exactly.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Caine, you're in a unique position because you're one of the certified solution providers through Digitx that's actually bringing eTIMS into organizations and also for individuals.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the motivation behind building Digitx and more importantly, the problems that it solves in providing this integration to eTIMS?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the question. So the role we play is to help companies who'd like a system-to-system integration, basically have a process or a way to transition their systems to be eTIMS compliant. So what we've done as Digitx is we've built a platform that basically makes the whole process easier, simpler, and faster. So we've looked at what the core requirements are. And as has just been mentioned, one of the things that is important is making sure that if, say, you do bulk invoicing or you have a very unique or specific system, is there a way for you to integrate and still be compliant without having to change the way you operate, your processes, or the systems you use? So that's the primary role we play. So we've built a suite of products to help that transition be much less or have much less effort involved in it. So we have online dashboards if you want to do e-invoicing, for example. We have our own integration layer. So we've basically taken the core eTIMS requirements and made it such that it can be flexible to integrate into as many systems as possible. And then we've added tools and value-added services that can give better visibility. So you find in organizations, there are very many stakeholders who want to understand, for example, how many transactions have I sent through to eTIMS and what's the status of those transactions? You have businesses that have very complex compliance requirements and they need maybe accounting, finance, or the operations department to understand what's happening. So we've built tools to enable this process be a much more seamless transition for an organization. So the way we see it is we're a value-added services player. Mm-hmm. And the idea is to also make sure that companies understand what is required to comply. One of the things with eTIMS is it's much more detailed in terms of what it requires for a business to be compliant. So we help businesses like scope and understand this is what you need to do. Mm-hmm. This is a change management required. Mm-hmm. And especially businesses that deal with non-VAT parties. So yes. You could have people who do deliveries. You could have people who, give you other services that are not necessarily on TIMS or eTIMS. How do you then help them be compliant as well? Because now that's part of the requirement. Every transaction you do as a sale needs to be on eTIMS, but also all your expenses need to be visible on eTIMS. So we help you also address some of the changes that would then make you be fully compliant and to enable you transition well.
So what I'm hearing you say is that, again, if a business is already invested in their own financial system, you're able to plug into that, presumably using APIs and the likes.
Yes.
But also the reconciliation between both spend and revenue being collected in one single view through your platform.
Yes, and the other piece we've thought about is where you want several parties to view the same information. So a good example is auditors and accountants. Yes. They would like visibility when they're doing like their annual reports. Now, eTIMS is a basis of which, for example, you'll be able to claim tax deductions. So giving many parties or making the system multi-user so many companies can have visibility into one business. Those are some of the things we've tried to think through as value-added services. So we've looked at it, not just here's what you need to do technically, but here's how we make the process more seamless for you.
Fantastic. Okay. Limo, I'd like to hear your perspective around eTIMS. I mean, you've been working in the financial services space for a long time, working with businesses, startups, and the likes. In this new eTIMS dispensation, what are you seeing and sort of understanding as this transition becomes really mainstream for everyone?
I think there are a lot of things happening in the business space. And one of the ones for governments, not just in Kenya, is to understand more of what happens in the economy. And that's by digitizing services and trying to understand what transactions happen. All across Africa, there's a lack of information. I think the government wants to provide better services. And it in all its books, it records that a lot of things are not recorded, and there's tax information with tax revenue which is lost because it's not recorded. So they've come out with this thing which is an easier way for informal small businesses, people not in the system, to get into the tax system. And with time, and I think with more information, there'll be a bit more adoption. For now, there's a few friction points which I hope will be addressed over the next few weeks, and hopefully not wait till the deadline of the end of the month.
But this is Kenya. We like to wait until the last week.
It's a Kenyan thing. It's not just with taxes. Anytime the government sets a deadline, there'll be a rush at the end. But the minute they extend it, the crowds will disappear until the next deadline. So I hope that will not be the case this time.
Great. So I think, Caroline, coming back to you, I think one of the implications of eTIMS obviously is that we have the the non-VAT scenario where anyone and everyone who do business have to be on eTIMS. What are the implications and considerations for those who need to comply? And post 31st of March, what does that mean going forward?
Okay. Like you've said, right now, the focus really is bringing on board everyone else in business who is not registered for VAT. So for the longest, KRA has mainly focused on the VAT registered taxpayers as far as visibility of transactions and having them recorded is concerned. But this is a way to also just broaden the tax base and be able to bring in everyone else in business so that they all operate at a level playing field. So for the non-VAT taxpayers, and here we're talking about persons in the category of turnover tax, monthly rental income for the landlords. We have those who have partnerships, registered companies paying corporation tax and are not registered for VAT. And we also are considering and bringing in individuals, like you and I, who maybe have a side hustle, individuals, both resident and what we call non-resident.
Okay.
But you may be a foreigner, but you have a base here in Kenya, you have a physical presence here in Kenya. So this requirement also applies to you. So what it takes, for some, it's not very clear. What does it mean for me? So eTIMS is now the software where we are requiring everyone in business to do their invoicing through that platform. And you can do it in various ways. We have availed 5 different ways by which someone can be able to use this system. And this is, like I said, an improvement from what we had rolled out with the ETRs, where you could only adopt an ETR. And, it was a bit rigid, but now we have provided a flexible approach towards complying. So depending on the nature of your operations, the nature of your business, the solutions available are tailor-made to suit the specific needs of people in business and the different kind of operations they are dealing in. So for example, if you're someone dealing mainly in services, you're not offering any goods for sale, there's a solution for you. That's the online portal. If you're selling goods, we have a solution as well. A downloadable software you install on a device, and it can be a computer, laptop, even phone. Yeah. For you now to be able to do your invoicing. And then we have what Caine has talked about here, the integration of, if you have a billing system, you can integrate it with eTIMS, so that we also, the intention is not to disrupt your operations, just to have sort of plug into your ecosystem and, we just go on with life as usual. And then additionally, recently, we've introduced some 2 simplified solutions, what we refer to as the eTIMS Lite. These ones we're getting a lot of good feedback for these solutions, mainly because the process of onboarding and registration is very quick, matter of minutes. You can self-onboard, and the solutions are available on eTIMS, on ecitizen.kra.go.ke. And the other way to also onboard for the simplified is for those who may not be very conversant with technology, and you don't have a laptop or computer, you don't even have the smartphone. All you have is your Kabambe phone.
Yeah.
You can still be able to onboard by dialing *222#. So it's a quick process of onboarding. You just register with ID for the *222#. That one is specifically for individuals, and you're able to generate your invoice immediately. The other solutions I've mentioned for the online portal, eTIMS client, and the system integration, those ones you access. The starting point is onboarding the eTIMS taxpayer portal on etims.kra.go.ke.
Brilliant. So let me just back up a bit.
Yeah.
You're telling me that if I have a Kabambe, I cannot just only on board, but even create invoices at that level.
Yes, immediately
So it
within a
doesn't have to be a
minute.
smartphone whatsoever.
No.
And then another question I have for you is like, let's say I'm an SME and I've already been having an ETR for the last 10 years.
Yes.
And the thing usually where you generate an invoice and then you print out a receipt and you staple it, or it does that. Does the eTIMS negate the need for the actual machine going forward? Or do you still need to retain your ETR machine?
Okay, that's actually a good question. We have, like I've mentioned, eTIMS is covering both the VAT traders and non-VAT.
Yes.
So the ones who use the ETR devices are the VAT registered traders, and we're having a number of them opting into eTIMS. There are some who, because of the ease of and the kind of flexibility that eTIMS provides, there are some who are opting to migrate.
Literally eliminate using the ETR physical machine.
Yes, and we are supporting them to do
That's
that.
Fantastic, yeah.
So for one reason or another, maybe like for the ones I mentioned earlier who are facing challenges integrating their ETR to their billing systems, or for those who bulk invoicing was proving a challenge, they are opting to migrate to eTIMS, and we are facilitating that process. But also at the same time, what we require is for you to deactivate that ETR, and there's a way to do that through your iTax profile.
So what you're telling me then is that you can literally have a completely paperless process as a business.
Yes.
And maybe that plays well into the next question here for Caine. I mean, how does Digitx then, play in that and sort of ease the troubles that businesses have in, becoming eTIMS compliant, but more importantly, getting some of these key benefits that Digitx brings to the process?
Yeah, thanks. So we've looked at it from a couple of angles.
Yeah.
The first one is we're trying to think about the transition process for a business.
Okay.
And what tool or what solution suits you best. So when you look at systems to system integrations, the good thing is they've given us flexibility to think through how to best serve taxpayers. So we've looked at it holistically, where we are saying you'd like a system to system integration, and we can give you an app maybe for your field team to start generating tax invoices. There's also an online portal where you can go log in, have many users access the same portal, and you'd all have visibility and different access to various functionalities on the platform. And then, of course, there's integrating with your system. Now, when it comes to integrating with the system, there are a couple of considerations. So, for example, we want to understand how have you structured your operations? Do you use an ERP? Do you use a point of sale system? What kind of data do you need to send? How do you think about things like redundancy and availability of connectivity? So we've taken into account all those scenarios and tried to make it such that once a business is transitioning to eTIMS, they have peace of mind that their compliance headaches, at least as far as tax compliance is concerned, is minimized or eliminated. So the other thing we've done is we've tried to think through how do we also help you during the transition process? So if you need to integrate, for example, that may take a few days or a few weeks, depending on how you've structured your system. So like our dashboard would then serve as an immediate compliance option. So as you're going through the integration and the transition, you still have the online portal where you can continue to generate invoices. And then once you're ready, you seamlessly switch over to your system generating the invoices, because it's one thing to say you want to integrate, but then there's a whole process of, maybe talking to your vendor or your team, taking the time to think through how to do the integration, testing, making sure everything is working. So as that's happening, your finance or accounting team still needs to be able to generate invoices. So you can do that as you wait for the integration to finish. And then finally, the other thing also is just to think through how this looks down the road. Of course, the expectation is eTIMS will continue to enhance and improve and add more features. So how do we make that process as seamless as possible? We want a scenario where we're avoiding anytime there's a change, you have to go to each and every system to start implementing those changes. So from a business continuity standpoint, as the system improves, as features are added, even when it comes to, say, changes in the taxes, because every year with the Finance Act, some taxes will change one way or another. How do we make that process seamless for you? So those are some of the things we've thought through, and basically try to think of it from the perspective of, once you do an integration, how do you make sure that your business continues with minimum disruption, given taxes is very dynamic, the laws will always be changing. But as a business, you don't need to keep reconfiguring your system as that's happening. So that's how we've looked at it from our perspective.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Limo, I'd like to hear your point of view around the immediate implications around eTIMS, because I think particularly where individuals are concerned and also the non-VAT registered businesses that now are doing this for the very first time, what are you seeing in the market as you work with your customers or your clients and others who are operating in this space who, for the very first time, are going to be using a system like this?
So I write for different institutions, including banks, and one of the agencies I work with, they sent an email to us in around January, just to say that going forward, when you send your invoice, it can't be a Microsoft Word receipt invoice. You now have to go into eTIMS and generate your invoices, which will be paid. If it's not an eTIMS invoice, we won't process your invoice. So that was a wake-up call for me as an individual. And I think for KRA now, I think they estimate they have about 8 million recorded taxpayers now. And I think many taxpayers wear many hats. You may have a day job, but you have a side hustle with chicken, or you're a writer, or you're advising people. So people have many personas. And then now you have a challenge of integrating what are you in terms of eTIMS? What do you invoice? Are you a landlord with a renting your SQ? Are you where are you in the tax system? So there are many things which people will have to go through and understand. I welcome such sessions where KRA is engaging and trying to show taxpayers, whether it's farmers, whether it's people in the market, and just to map out different personas. I would like Carol to be able to tell us of the 5 solutions, which one is best for you. If you're a mid-sized business, this is what you should do. If you're just somebody with a Kabambe phone, we have USSD. You can generate your invoice here. So I think more education is going to help ease the transition process, and in a way that it's not going to be a friction point on March 31st when people will now just be locked out and said they'll now be running around and saying, how do I catch up with this system? Yeah.
Great, thanks for that. And I think what you just said kind of plays back well, Caroline, to my next question to you, which is, what are some of the common misunderstandings we are seeing, or from the KRA perspective, around eTIMS? Because I think there've been incidences and instances where people, sort of are up in arms, but also more importantly, it could just be that they misunderstand what it's about. So what are the kind of things you're seeing, and how do we address those misunderstandings or misconceptions about eTIMS and obviously the benefits that it brings to these transactions?
Okay. So I think the biggest misconception is that eTIMS is a new tax that has been introduced. And I would like to just clarify, it is not. eTIMS is it's a software that will, if you can look at it as a business tool that will enable you to trade effectively and give you control over your business. So I know that misconception is mainly with informal sector, for the very small traders who are making whatever they are able to make. But the fear is that even that little that I'm making now will be taken away from me. And we really want to clarify that is not the case. So the taxes that are in place remain in place. They have not changed. All of us, by virtue of registering for a PIN. And that is why the first step in this whole process of eTIMS and onboarding and being able to use the system is you need to register. Just like even when we are getting a phone or any service, you have to first do a process of registration so that we identify you, give you a unique way of identifying you. So that would be your PIN number. And that PIN is something that will facilitate you in terms of being able to do business. So I'll speak for the for the very small traders who, for the most part, have been doing operations manually, even your record keeping, and sometimes it holds you back in being able to do business even with other persons who have formalized their operations. Some would shy away because you may not be able to give them a document that they can be able to use to support that expense. So in this case, for you to be able to do business and grow your business, because in everything we have to grow. So for you to grow that small business to something even bigger and for it to reach its full potential, it's good for you to also comply with the laws governing how business operates, tax being one of them. So eTIMS is just a way to spur you forward and bring more opportunities for you. And the other thing maybe I would want to just clarify is that the benefits that it provides is, one, it's a free solution. So even for that small trader, there's no additional cost you will incur by onboarding on eTIMS. The solutions we are providing are provided by KRA. KRA services are free, of course, and we then are able to assist you to onboard, or you can have the option of self-onboarding. So there's no cost. The solutions are flexible to the extent that we have even availed the invoicing through USSD for those with their Kabambe phones. The other benefit, of course, is that it's there's some good feedback we're getting from some of the taxpayers who are onboarding that eTIMS has allowed them to interact with technology, because for the longest they, were
It's like digital literacy, literally.
Yes. We've elevated their digital literacy, because there was this perception that those POS systems I can't afford, I can't use them. I can't get a laptop. I don't have funds to get a smartphone. And for now, that we're not saying that that's what you need to do. So by automating the process of invoicing, we've provided a portal on which you can be able to just keep track of your invoices and have visibility of how you're doing, day by day. So for some, they're able to know that in certain periods of the month, this is when I'm most busiest, this is when I'm making the most sales compared to these other times. Maybe towards the end of the month is when I'm the busiest. At the beginning of the month, there's a bit of a slump, but it will help you with financial planning, personal financial planning, because now you can know for the periods where I have a slump, I have to make sure I have a buffer. So whatever monies I would get from whatever I'm selling, I need to have a way to ensure that it carries me on even for those periods when I have the slumps.
I think it's important what you just said, because obviously the compliance piece is important, right?
Yes.
But when I've used it, because I've also used it as an individual, I've actually generated a couple of invoices, and I saw so many parallels between that and the financial system I use in my business.
Yes.
So if you're a person who's never used a formal way of invoicing and tracking your financials and all that, you suddenly have this free dashboard.
Yes.
Which actually now allows you to be able to see insights on your business in terms of invoicing and
Exactly.
the credit notes, and you can brand it with your logo.
Yes.
And now you actually have a financial management system,
Yes.
which wasn't the case before.
Yeah.
So I think that's actually kind of wonderful that you are also, in addition to this, getting the value addition of a financial management system.
Yes.
And I think that's fantastic. Ken, I'd like to come back to you, because I think with all good things, we quite often also see challenges.
Yes.
And I know you've worked very, very hard with your team to build DigiTax. You're rolling it out to businesses and individuals. What are some of the challenges that you have encountered as a solution provider for eTIMS? And how are you overcoming these with your clients and those who would like to onboard on your platform?
Great, thanks for the question. I think the first issue that we've seen and had to think about is just the vast number of existing solutions out there that people would like to integrate into eTIMS.
Wow.
So by our own measure and research, there are over 7,000 distinct point of sale systems in the country. Yes.
That's crazy.
So for all of this to get on eTIMS, you then have to now start thinking, okay, what are their requirements? What are their capabilities? Remember, this is an investment a business has already done. So they'd like to be compliant, but at the lowest cost or effort possible. But then now you start peeling off the layers, and then you realize some of them were never built with integration in mind. So how does this system communicate with eTIMS, or how does it send its data in real time? So that's the other thing you then have to think through. And then you have the day-to-day considerations like connectivity. A system may not always be online. There could be a network issue.
Even basic internet access, right?
Basic internet access is not guaranteed. So you have to think through all these. We're now thinking through, okay, how do I best serve the customer? And of course, make them tax compliant and ensure that there's no potential issue that can come up. So what we've tried to do as Digitax is think through these solutions and ask ourselves, how do we make sure that on one hand, the data is sent, the taxpayer has comfort that the data will get to the other end, and then also making sure that for a business, there's a comfort level that once this integration or setup is done, they can go on with the business with minimum interruption. Systems are systems. There'll always be an availability for one reason or another. So you have to think about redundancy and what do you do, or how do you address in scenarios where there's no system access, even if there is connectivity. So Digitax has taken a holistic approach to all this. So we've built in measures, for example, to address unavailability on our end, or even if eTIMS is, for example, under maintenance or unavailable for one reason or another, you can still continue to transact with minimum disruption. The thing about eTIMS now is it's 24/7. Yeah. So there are many businesses and activities that take place outside, normal working hours.
Correct.
They still need to be compliant. They still need to be supported. So how do you build a system that works or is available 24/7? And how do you mitigate any potential issues? So we've taken an approach where we're saying, okay, one, let's understand the landscape. Two, let's build a solution that's very versatile and flexible. So if you have, say, I don't use the word old, but a system you bought a long time ago, and you still feel it serves you well, how do we help you be compliant? If you have a new system, or if you're a business that's doing a lot of high volume transactions, think of your retail outlets, your supermarkets. How do you deal with that scenario where it's high volume? You have people maybe in a line always waiting to be served. So how do you deal with any potential disruptions or unavailability? So our solution tries to address those scenarios. And basically, when you integrate, you're then now not worried, or will I get the required information? Can I print the invoice? Will there be issues later on? So those are some of the things we've tried to address. And then lastly, I think one important thing to note is because now eTIMS is such a crucial part of the payment process, as has just been mentioned by Limo. People are saying, without missing the eTIMS invoice, I'm not going to settle your payment. Now it's become a very, let me not say the word sensitive, but it's become a very important part of the payment process. Whereas before, maybe it could be done after the fact, or it's something you reconcile later. Now it's a prerequisite to getting paid. So how do you give businesses and comfort the assurance that if they're using the integration or they're using your system, that they're almost always guaranteed to be able to generate what they need to generate to get paid? So those are some of the things we've tried to think through on our end as Digitax to just help the transition process.
So case in point, like my business, in my day job, we've had a finance system, I think, for 12 years or so, give or take. We invested in it. It has historical data. It works well for us. It works in the cloud. So in principle, what you're telling me is that I could talk to Digitax as a small business, ask whether you have an integration or you might have to do a custom job. And then we can streamline that workflow so that now we can hopefully retire our ETR machine and do everything through the cloud, correct?
Yeah, the important thing there is to have minimum disruption. So, when you think about change management, how a business runs, those are routines that have been developed over years. And the last thing you want is to talk about, change of system or bring in any inefficiency, so to speak, in the process. So the goal there is always to make them compliant with minimum disruption, because there's also the cost of changing, which you want to avoid for the business. So that's how we look at the solutions we offer.
So I imagine you have a lot of work to do just in terms of creating that compatibility across different platforms, right?
Yeah, so the way we've developed our technology, it's basically based on open standards.
Okay.
We've thought of as many possibilities as possible. So we've made our integration documentation public, and we support right now 19 different software languages.
Wow.
We take care of unavailability, or basically if you can't reach eTIMS one reason or another, we can handle that. So the idea is your system should not try, for example, keep trying to send, and yet we know we can't get it successfully to the other end. We'll receive it, we'll hold the transaction, and then we'll process it for you once eTIMS is available again, and then we'll notify you that this is the status of the transaction. So things like real-time notifications, just making sure that as a business, you're not having to overthink how to be compliant. The other important point that I think is around data security, because now you're streaming a lot of data through to eTIMS. So that's something we've also invested a lot in, both from a system standpoint and also from a legal standpoint. So things like the Data Protection Act, being compliant with it. You're sending a lot of sensitive data through your systems to eTIMS. So it's how do you make sure that all stakeholders, KRA, the taxpayer, and anyone else who is processing or handling that information has the right level of comfort that their data is being handled the right way from a technical and policy and, of course, legal standpoint. So those are some of the things we've tried to think about as Digitx.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Limo, coming back to you, what are some of the tips and pointers you'd give people who are now, for the very first time, possibly getting onto eTIMS, and more importantly, how they can do it in a way that actually works for them?
I think take comfort in that taxes are a fact of life. If you if you look at the largest companies in Kenya, whether it's Safaricom, Coca-Cola, Kenya Airways, they all have small tax issues which they talk with KRA, they manage to settle. For anybody, look at what taxes have done for the country. I remember years ago, we used to go to Times Tower to renew our driver's licenses and our vehicle, a vehicle license every year. We used to queue all around Times Tower, spend January 1st to 4th, that kind of thing. Now you can do things in your home, you can generate things, you can pay things seamlessly. So taxes are... It's get used to it. It's very nice that, as Carol has explained, it's a free invoicing system. You can do it from your home. When your system gets more complex, then you can now talk to Caine and get a solution for your business.
Yeah.
So it's designed for you to be able to do your stuff at an individual level, regardless of your technology. So just take comfort, educate yourself, take advantage of sessions. I know KRA have got classes they do online every few weeks.
The webinars, yeah.
Yeah, so sign up for that, ask your questions, and it's a fact of life. So I think the challenge which a few people are encountering now is that they have been doing transactions, and as Carol has said, it's not a new tax which has been created, but now they're just being made aware that the fact that you've been doing this business, now that you've put it in the system, you now realize that there is something else you need to have done all these years. And I think going forward, those things will be sorted out.
Fantastic. So, Carol, I'd like to come back to maybe the last question. What's the way forward? What are sort of the updates and the uptake information you have currently on eTIMS? What can we expect, beyond March and so forth? Can you give us a sense of how that's going along?
Okay. So we are actively in this process of onboarding and registering taxpayers on eTIMS. So there are those who are doing it themselves, self-onboarding, which is, I think, the ideal way to go about it. But we are also available to support anyone who would need that kind of assistance. So you can just visit the nearest KRA office or service support centers. We are all around the country. And we are targeting, right now we have about 170,000 taxpayers on board eTIMS for the actively trading. And we are hoping to get a lot more. Yeah. So we have a few weeks to go before March 31st. And like it was said, there may be a mad rush towards the last week or so. And we would really encourage you to just start this process early. Because the thing to remember is that even as you onboard, we would expect that for the invoices you raised earlier, from 1st January to the date when you onboard, you would need to capture them through the system. So don't wait till the last minute to now sit and start capturing, let's say, 100 invoices you have raised over the last 3 months or so through eTIMS. So the earlier you do it, the better, so that you also are not operating in a space where there's a panic and you'd be prone to errors. So we are supporting taxpayers, and right now even the business community is checking itself. For anyone doing business with someone, they'll say, for me, this purchase I've made from you is an expense for my business, so I need it to be supported by an eTIMS invoice so that I can declare it as an allowable expense when it comes to filing my return. So that is also helping push uptake. And the other thing is, now come 1st April and beyond, eTIMS will still be available for purposes of onboarding, because we still have new taxpayers being registered daily. However, for those of you in business who would not have complied by then, now you would be operating in a space of non-compliance, and I don't think that would really be the way to go. So
No, you don't want to do that.
yeah. So I would really encourage. We have about 3 weeks to go. Please just let this be a call to action. Come on board eTIMS. We have the different solutions available, and for any information you require, kindly visit the KRA website on www.kra.go.ke. We have a lot of information there. And visit our taxpayer portal, the eTIMS portal on etims.kra.go.ke, as well as the eCitizen portal, where we also have the KRA services hosted. Thank you.
I think I just want to say something about the one for the individuals, because I did it, I think, about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I was shocked. I think within 3-4 minutes I was in
Yes.
and generating an invoice.
Yeah.
So in terms of I think that's the eTIMS.citizen. No,
eCitizen.kra.go.ke.
yes, that one. Very simple.
Yes.
Very straightforward. So I don't think anyone has any excuse not to try that.
Exactly. As long as you have your eCitizen account.
Exactly.
You log in using your, your credentials and activate the invoicing module
So
by a click of a button.
Really simple. So I was even shocked at how quick I was in.
Yes.
I don't know why I thought it would be hard, but it was very easy. Caine, is there anything you'd like to say, maybe for our audience, just any parting shot, any things that you think are really important for them to know about eTIMS going forward?
Yeah, thanks. Maybe to echo what has just been shared, the earlier the better.
Yeah.
And especially with integrations, or if you want to map your system to eTIMS, it takes time. So the earlier you can do that, the better. From our perspective, if you'd like to know more about Digitax, you can go to digitax.tech or just Google Digitax. It will be one of the first results you see. We're able to guide you through how to go about integration, how we can support you. Of course, if you need an intermediate solution as integration is going on, our online portal is available for generating invoices. So you don't have to wait for an integration to complete as that's happening. And then also finally, if anyone has any questions or thoughts, or if anyone would like more clarification on integrations, we are happy to help and have those sessions as well. We also do have webinars targeted at integrations. So you can go to our website, through our chatbot, you can request for a webinar, especially if you're having scenarios or situations where you feel yes, you'd like an integration, but you have very specific requirements. We're happy to help you think through how you can transition and be compliant. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for that, Caine. And maybe Limo, you can give us your parting shot as well on eTIMS.
So entrepreneurship program I support is in Kenya, Rwanda, and Ethiopia. So even today, about 50 entrepreneurs are entering the program in just outside Kigali. And with the Rwanda ventures, which we've been advising, I've learned about something called EBM, and it's kind of a precursor, I think, to eTIMS. It's very similar. It's about 10 years older, and it's for VAT payments in Rwanda. Basically, you have to have a electronic tax invoice for anything. And with the entrepreneurs who we've been supporting, every now and then one of them would have a issue where they'll be dealing with a partner who is not able to generate the invoice, and that way they're not able to record that expense. So I think one thing which Rwanda has now proposed to do is to encourage more compliance and uptake. I think they are now giving a reward for people who will encourage somebody else to sign up onto the system. And if somebody doesn't sign up to the system, you're able to what the government collects there, they will share a portion of that with you. So it's a way of rewarding you for raising the level of compliance.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that will happen in Kenya in a few years' time, where maybe now I'll be able to get something for creating a new taxpayer. Maybe I'll get 5 or 10%. So good luck to these guys. Good luck to eTIMS. I certainly have to do a bit of work on my end. And I think everybody has to do that for the next few weeks.
Thank you, Limo.
Okay.
Caroline, Caine, Limo, thank you so much for sharing your insights on eTIMS.
Thank you.
And more importantly, the importance of compliance, but also doing it in a timely manner. And we hope that our audience will be able to see the benefits of this, but more importantly, take the action required so that they too can fall into the right bracket. And more importantly, they can't do business without this going forward.
Okay.
So whether you're an individual or whether somebody is a business, I believe we've covered all the bases today. And really the next step is take action and make sure you're compliant.
Yes.
So thank you very much for joining us for today's edition of Pure Digital Passion Podcast with me, Moses Kemibaro. I think we've extensively covered KRA eTIMS for all of you out there who are watching or listening to this. And more importantly, again, let me just re-emphasize that it is a good system. It actually gives you even a financial management system. They've made sure that the lowest common denominator can use it, including those using their simple feature phones. And really, there's no excuse. So make sure you're compliant. Make sure you sign up for eTIMS. And most importantly, take advantage of the insights that have been shared here today and ensure that you can take your business or your own individual activities forward because you are on eTIMS. Thank you very much, and we'll catch you in the next one.